I didn't talk too much about the white people because frankly they're annoying. Like, we don't need to give them airtime at all. Hello, hi, Miniano. Welcome back to my channel and to another episode of Books in a Beat. That's a series I do on my channel where I review books written by African authors in a makeup look and usually an outfit inspired by the cover of the book. Today we're talking about The Deep Blue Between. It was written by Ayesha Harruna Attah. She's a Ghanaian author who has written quite a few fan favorites. The 100 Worlds of Salaga, Harmattan Rain. I've been trying to find the book for a while after it was published, but it still wasn't available in Canada. But I cried to one of my bombers and they got it for me. So, physical copy. Isn't it cute? The story follows the lives of twins, Hassana and Husseina, after they are separated during a slave raid of their village. They're separated when they're 10 years old, so it just looks at how they navigate life from 10 to about 17 and the different ways that they try to or don't try to find each other. It's set in colonial times, and I think one thing it really looks at is the effects of slavery, how these changes affected Native Africans, and looks at how they tried to survive that trauma. Some people choosing to leave their pasts behind because they didn't have a choice. Some people choosing to hold steadfast to their pasts and what they felt was the truth of who they are. Today's makeup look, as usual, is inspired by the cover of the book. The base is a dark blue and there's a streak of lighter blue over the top. The look isn't symmetrical like it usually is because I tried to add a few extra elements. So one eye has a vine twisting around the blue streak and another has a vine twisting around the wing of the eyeliner. The pink flowers are reminiscent of the pink flowers on the cover of the book, and there's a little orange dot that's supposed to be like where the pollen and things are. The necklace that I'm wearing, it's blue and it kind of reflects purple. You've seen this necklace before if you watched my video on His Only Wife. And I have a pair of simple small hoop earrings so that I don't distract from everything else that's going on here. My blouse is also in the blue-green family. Everything kind of meshes together nicely. Okay, we're gonna get into characters now. The book is about the twins, and so naturally they're the first set of characters that I'm going to talk about. But I think it's also important for me to talk about the maternal figures that kind of guided them in their journey back to each other. Hassana and Husseina are the twins who are the protagonists of the book. Husseina changes her name to Victoria. So in the book, at some point, she's referred to only as Victoria, but for the duration of the video, I'll be referring to her as Husseina. They were separated when they were 10 years old, and so the story follows them as they try to follow each other. We know that their separation was caused by a slave raid in their village, and in addition to the fact that they lost their family in the raid, they also lost each other. And as we continue in the plot, we understand that before their separation, they would share dreams, and after their separation, they continue to share dreams to some extent. We read about each twin individually and see how Hassana, the older twin, the one who has traditionally been seen as the custodian of her sister, the caretaker of her sister, is more active in her search for her sister, and how Husseina, who has usually been considered the twin that needs to be taken care of, comes into her own as an individual. Eventually they are reunited, and so the differences in how they've navigated the past 7 years come to light. And so in addition to seeing how they grow differently, we also get to see how those dynamics overlap when they find each other again. Hassana's capture takes her through Ghana, so she goes from the northern part of Ghana to the middle belt, and then she eventually goes to Accra. Husseina's journey takes her to Lagos and then takes her to Bahia in Brazil. And so in addition to reading just how different they are as people, and we also see how their different locations influence the differences that they espouse when they finally meet. The second set of characters that I'm going to be talking about consists of Hajjiya and Yaya, At the end of Hassana's journey, she ends up living with a family in Accra, taken in by Hajjiya. Husseina's journey before she gets to Brazil, when she's in Lagos, she meets Yaya. Yaya is a priestess in the Candomblé community that lives in Lagos, I guess. And she takes Husseina in when Husseina is thrown into a trance by the rhythm of the drums and removes Husseina from the clutches of a man who has basically bought her and enslaved her in his home. Both of these women are significant because they act as mother figures to twins who have basically lost their entire family. And that kind of guidance and care and understanding of them as an individual and their situation as a twin who has been separated from her twin pushes them to help each twin be better so that she can find the other. So for themes, the first one that was really clear to me was evolution of self. As I've mentioned, when they separated, they had to grow as individuals. I think the evolution of self was kind of exemplified by how hard they looked for each other. Hassana was very, very active in her search for her sister, and later in the plot we understand that she's very much in the mind frame that when she does find her sister, she's going to remain the older one and going to be the one that takes care of everything. But Husseina, on the other hand, is very much seen in the plot to be adamant to grow as her own person, to be strong for herself, to speak for herself, to be a fully fledged individual that does not rely on somebody else to speak for her, decide for her. And that's largely because of the dynamic that she had with her sister. In addition to that, Husseina takes on a new persona while she lives in Lagos. And apart from that persona being so that she can leave Lagos, it also seems to symbolize her deciding to come into a new self and allow herself to be the master of her own destiny. She also makes the decision to keep the fact that she is a twin away from the people that she's with, mostly because she understands that these are cultures that revere twins, and instead of giving her the space to grow as her own person, they will encourage her to go and find her sister. The second theme that really stood out to me was African traditional religions on the continent and in the diaspora. African traditional religions traveled across the globe with all the enslaved people who were captured and sent to other places to serve as labor. And they evolved and gained additions and made subtractions. I think it's cool that the orisha-ifa belief system traveled from the western coast of Africa all the way to Latin America, to the point where a woman who is descended of enslaved Africans can believe so strongly and come back to the land of origin of her religion and find community, make community, and provide support for other people who are willing to be a part of the community, basically. Through Hassana's journey, she encounters many missionaries, Christian missionaries, and at every point they've encouraged her to become a practicing Christian. And though she performs acceptance in order to maintain her security, she's very clear on the fact that she's not a believer at all. I appreciated that both protagonists were very clear on the fact that the African traditional religions that they found themselves leaning into were what gave them comfort, what gave them guidance. You don't often see that being portrayed, and I appreciate the book for doing that. The third theme, I labeled it as release to receive. It was basically about allowing yourself to be free of the things that are holding you back, releasing the past to receive the present. It is a point of contention between the twins. Hassana is very much still holding on to the promise of her being reunited with her sister and everything will go back to the way it was. Whereas Husseina has allowed herself to think past that and imagine a world where she doesn't find her twin and build a life for herself in which she doesn't have her twin but she's okay. Husseina released all the things that could hold her back from growing as a person and let herself grow, whereas Hassana held on to the past, and when they find each other it becomes a point of contention because the person who is holding on to the past is so insistent that this is the way things are supposed to be, whereas the person who has allowed themselves to consider a world in which this scenario never happened has grown past that and will not return for the benefits of the person who's still stuck. Overall, I enjoyed reading how each sister was growing differently and slowly understanding while I followed the plot how the differences in growth could be a make or break point for them when they found each other. I truly appreciated the representation of African traditional religions, particularly orisha-ifa or candomblé. A couple of things that I found interesting in the plot. One, I think it's really cool that apart from the physical markers of the fact that the sisters have gone to different places, the languages that they have in their repertoire are so different, but then the only common one is Gumanche. I think that's how it's pronounced. Reading how they both kind of struggle to make sentences in that language that they have in common because they've cycled through so many other languages. That's really cool. 2, so I haven't made any mention of the white people in the book apart from just saying the missionaries, but reading the plot is just really wild to me how long white people have been so far removed from the kind of violence that they enact, that they espouse, that they carry around with them when they're gallivanting across the world trying to save native people from themselves. In the plot, I don't think any of them actually realized how their presence was disintegrating like ways of life that existed long before they did. The very last thing, I have a question, and don't fight me because I know how you girls love to tussle. Why do we not write local languages properly when we're publishing these books? Is it a publishing decision to absolutely disregard the fact that these native languages have actual systems within which they are written, rules by which they are like notated for reading? Is that what it is? Is it to make it easier for non-native audiences to access the sounds that we're trying to make? Would it be much more difficult to provide a glossary of pronunciation and meanings? Like I noticed that in The Sex Lives of African Women as well. At the very end, when Nana Dakwah writes her own entry, I think it was song lyrics, and oh, nowhere to be found, not even in the group chat. And it's just like using 3 and close parentheses is convenient, maybe even more accessible. But I would think that we would want to be respectful of our local languages and the ways that we want people to honor our local languages, and in so doing make it very clear that we want them to be written as they should be. As always, thank you so much for watching, for commenting, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing. I truly appreciate every single interaction that you guys make with my posts, and I hope that my attempt at consistency has been enjoyable so far. I'll see you in the next one.